Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our topic of discussion is fetal circulation and changes at birth. Our objectives are we will describe what is fetal circulation, explain the changes in circulation taking place after birth, and differentiate between the fetal circulation and circulation after birth. First of all, we will define what is fetal circulation. Fetal circulation is the circulation of blood between the fetus and the mother and also through the fetus. That is fetal circulation. So before birth, the fetus is connected by umbilical cord to the placenta. Already we talked about this in previous lectures. The organ that develops and implants in the mother's uterus during pregnancy. So through umbilical cord, fetus is connected to the placenta. Through the blood vessels in the umbilical cord, the fetus receives all necessary nutrition, oxygen, and life support from the mother through placenta through this channel. While the waste products and carbon dioxide from the fetus are sent back through the umbilical cord and placenta to the mother's circulation to be eliminated and deoxygenated blood to be oxygenated. At early embryonic life, if we see the structure of the umbilical cord, it contains two umbilical arteries which carry deoxygenated blood from the fetus body to the placenta and two umbilical veins which carry oxygenated blood from placenta to the fetus. Later on during the development, the right umbilical vein disappears and only the remaining structure is left umbilical vein. So if we see the structure at that time or at the time of birth, we have two umbilical arteries and only one umbilical vein, which is actually left umbilical vein because right is disappeared. So in fetal circulation, as we have talked about, we have two umbilical arteries which are carrying the mixed blood, which is oxygenated partially and deoxygenated to the placenta, and the only one vein which is actually left umbilical vein, we name it umbilical vein because we have only one now, it takes oxygenated blood. So the oxygenated blood from the umbilical vein reaches to the liver, and from liver through a vessel which is known as tubular structure ductus venosus, it enters into inferior vena cava. Over here, just at near the or closer to the umbilical vein, there is a sphincter in ductus venosus which actually regulates the blood which is passing to the liver. So most of the blood passes from the umbilical vein to the ductus venosus and from ductus venosus to the inferior vena cava. So it means it is bypassing the liver, and some of the blood enters into the liver through here and enters into liver sinusoids where it mixes with the blood, and from sinusoids the blood enters into hepatic veins, and through hepatic veins it enters into inferior vena cava. Most of the blood is passing through ductus venosus bypassing liver, and some of the blood enters into sinusoids, and from sinusoids to hepatic veins of the liver, and from hepatic veins to the inferior vena cava. Some books says that it is 50-50%. The 50% blood is passing through ductus venosus and 50 enter into the liver. But generally, a school of thought is that most of the blood passes through the ductus venosus by passing the liver, and some of the blood enters the liver. So as we can see, the liver is receiving most of the oxygenated blood from the umbilical vein. That is the one of the first organ of the baby which is receiving oxygenated blood from the umbilical vein. So here what we have discussed is the main portion of the oxygen blood in the left umbilical vein flows to the left branch of portal vein through ductus venosus to inferior vena cava directly, and a small portion enters into the hepatic sinusoid. From there it reaches to the inferior vena cava through the hepatic veins. The oxygenated blood in the inferior vena cava is divided into two portions, if we can say. That means that the blood which is passing now, or it is destinating towards the right atrium, and when it enters into the right atrium, the major portion of the blood stream enters into the right atrium, passes through foramen ovale to the left atrium. So most of the blood which is coming from the inferior vena cava enters into right atrium, and from right atrium it directly moves to the left atrium through the opening which is known as foramen ovale. And from when it reaches to the left atrium, it mixes with the small amount of blood returning from the lungs. That is almost 10% of the blood which is returning from the lungs. So, from the left atrium, the mixed blood which is coming from the lungs enter into left ventricle through this opening, which is atrioventricular opening, and from here this blood enter into ascending aorta to supply the head, heart, upper limb, well oxygenated blood. So again, the major portion from inferior vena cava, the oxygen blood enters through foramen ovale into left atrium, where it mixes with a small amount of blood which is coming from the lungs, because the lungs of the new fetal life are not functional. So that blood which is supplying the lung tissue is coming back, that is the 10% blood, which mixes with the blood which is coming from the right inferior vena cava through right atrium, and from here this all blood enters into left ventricle, and from left ventricle it is pushed back to the ascending aorta, arch of aorta, and as it is pushed up it is supplying the head, heart, and upper limb. So good oxygen blood is reaching to these organs. Now the small portion of the blood which is not entering through foramen into left ventricle enters into the right atrium now. The small portion is prevented from entering the foramen vein by the lower edge of septum secundum, which is known as crista dividens. So over here the lower edge of septum secundum, which is known as crista dividens, this one, it prevents some of the blood to enter into left atrium and remains over here. As we have discussed, most of the blood from inferior vena cava enters into through foramen ovale enter into left atrium, but some of the blood, because of this crista dividens, which is the lower edge of septum secundum, remains in the right atrium. So this blood which is oxygenated mixes with the blood which is coming from superior vena cava, is deoxygenated blood. So this blood mixes with the blood of superior vena cava, and now this blood from right atrium enters into the right ventricle through atrioventricular opening. So some of the blood from the inferior vena cava remain in the right atrium and mixes with the deoxygenated blood coming back from the head and neck region, and from here this blood enters into the Right ventricle through atrioventricular opening. As we already know, the lungs are not functional at birth, so very low amount of blood is passing to the lungs. From the right ventricle, when it pushes the blood to the pulmonary artery, the pulmonary artery is connected to the aorta through a tubule structure which is known as ductus arteriosus. Ductus arteriosus is a tubular structure which is connecting pulmonary trunk to the aorta. So most of the blood from the pulmonary trunk enters into the aorta, and from aorta it passes to the body tissues of the fetus. So because of the increased pulmonary resistance in the fetal life, pulmonary blood flow is low. So only 10% goes to the lungs. I will repeat again, because of increased pulmonary vascular resistance in fetal life, pulmonary blood flow is low, so only 10% is going to the lungs for its nourishment. Most of the blood passes through the ductus arteriosus into the aorta and finally reaches to the fetal body tissues. And if we also see here that 10% of the blood from the ascending aorta enters into descending aorta. So from left ventricle, the blood which is going to the ascending aorta passes through these vessels to the, not only supplying the heart itself but also the head, neck and upper limb, and only 10% blood from here enters into descending, which is oxygenated blood. So the lung is not functional at birth, only small amount of blood reaches to the lungs. We have discussed this point. The main portion of the blood passes directly to the ductus arteriosus to the arch of aorta, distal to the branches to the descending aorta, supplying the lower half of the body. This mixed blood reaches the placenta, ultimately through the two umbilical arteries, with almost saturation of oxygen over here is almost 58% in this umbilical artery. 58% of the saturation is there. So if we talk about again the food and oxygenated blood from the mother passes through umbilical vein into the liver. From liver, it directly goes to inferior vena cava through ductal venosus. Most of the blood and some of the blood enters into inferior vena cava, liver, and from liver to sinusoids, from sinusoids to hepatic veins, and from hepatic veins to inferior vena cava. Then the blood enters into the right atrium, and from right atrium, it directly passes to the left atrium through the opening which is known as foramen vein. And from foramen vein it enters over here. Some of the blood remain in the right atrium, mixes with the blood coming from the superior vena cava through atrioventricular opening, comes into right ventricle. From right ventricle it is pushed to the pulmonary trunk. From pulmonary trunk, most of the blood enters into the aorta through ductus arteriosus, and some of the blood, that is almost 10%, reaches to the lungs for the nourishment of the lung. And that 10% deoxygen blood come back from the lungs to the left atrium and mixes with the blood which is coming from the right atrium, oxygenated, enters into right ventricle. So the circulatory changes which are taking place at birth because of mainly two factors. Number one is ligation of the umbilical cord. As we ligate the umbilical cord, the fetal circulation start phase and human circulation is developed now or is developing. And exposure to the cold also is a factor, important factor for circulatory changes at birth. What happened as a result of ligature of the umbilical cord? So umbilical cord is not ligated just after the birth. So after few minutes of the delivery of the baby, umbilical cord is clamped and ligated. As it is ligated, the umbilical arteries stop now and the distal parts become occluded and obliterated and become medial umbilical ligament. So as the umbilical cord over here, or we can say in the diagram, occluded, the blood is not entering or exiting from the placenta now, because there is no connection from the placenta. So ultimately the umbilical artery distal part, with the passage of time, become medial umbilical ligament, and they are obliterated, and proliferation of fibrous tissue occurs, and they completely change into a ligament when you meet medial umbilical ligament, while the proximal part of the artery remain intact in the human body, and they in future form the superior vesical artery, which are supplying the urinary bladder. Here we can see also this is the posterior abdominal wall showing the urinary bladder, and so this part of the urinary bladder will be ultimately supplied by the superior vesical arteries, and remaining part of this will be formed as medial umbilical ligament. So umbilical arteries have two derivatives in human body: proximal part as superior vesical artery and inferior distal part as medial umbilical ligament. The other changes which occur, the left umbilical vein, which is the actual umbilical vein, become occluded and obliterated, as the sphincter of ductus venosus constricts. It also occluded and obliterated. So all the blood now passes through the liver. So when we close the umbilical vein and when we close the ductus venosus, what will happen? All the blood which is passing to the liver, now there is no ductus venosus, or it is closed. So all the blood must has to pass to the, or enters to the liver. It enters into the liver, which is to the sinusoid. From sinusoids it enters into hepatic veins, and from hepatic veins it enters into inferior vena cava, which is actually the adult circulation. So the umbilical vein obliterated, and in future or in adult life it become a ligament which is known as ligamentum teres. So it takes almost 3 months to completely obliterate it. The same way as the center of ductus venosus constricts, and ultimately with the passage of time the cable structure occluded and obliterated, and ligamentum venosum is formed. So the ductus venosus become ligamentum venosum. So because of the closure of ductus venosus or occlusion of ductus venosus, occlusion of pulmonary circulation occurs, causes decrease in blood pressure in IVC and right atrium. So now because the blood is not directly passing to the inferior vena cava and through inferior to the right atrium, and because of the occlusion of this, the pressure in the inferior vena cava decreases. The blood stream passing through the inferior vena cava become less, as we have discussed, because of the closure of ductus venosus, leading to reduction of pressure in the right atrium. So this pressure is decreased because now there is no direct flow. This is the diagram showing the adult circulation. So before it was passing directly, now it enters into the liver. From liver it enters into inferior vena cava. So pressure decreases over here, and ultimately also the pressure in the right atrium decreases, and ultimately the pressure in the left ventricle increases. Why the pressure increases? That just after birth and the first baby cry, the lung expands and they start to inflate and deflate, and because of that, and also the decrease in the pressure in right atrium, the pressure, because the adult circulation started, so the pressure in the left ventricle, left atrium increases, and because of the pressure increases, it compress the septum primum against septum secundum. So this foramen ovale, which was initially an opening channel, Now it is closed. Why? Because the back pressure of the blood into the right atrium decreased and pressure in the left atrium is increased. So this pressure pushes the primum and secundum together and the foramen will closes. And the septum primum will form the fossa ovalis, which we have studied in the anatomy lecture. The septum-like structure in the middle, a circular portion, that is the septum primum, and the septum secundum or the edges of septum secundum will form the annulus ovalis or margins of the fossa ovalis. So again I will repeat, because of the occlusion of the ductus venosus, the pressure in inferior vena cava of the blood decreases, ultimately decreasing the pressure in the right atrium, and because of the arterial circulation started, inflation and deflation of the lung tissue and the start of the pulmonary circulation, the blood in the left atrium increases, and because of that increase, it pushes the primum against secundum and opening close. So septum primum becomes the fossa ovalis, and edges of the septum secundum will form the annulus diagnosis. So now the adult circulation started. All the blood reaches to the right atrium, enters into right ventricle. From here it goes to the pulmonary trunk. From pulmonary trunk it enters into the pulmonary vessels to the lungs. From lungs the oxygen blood comes back to the left atrium, and from left atrium to the left ventricle, and then to the aorta, and this starts the adult circulation. Now, on exposure to the cold, the respiration is stimulated and lungs become functioning, as we have discussed. So the blood stream in the pulmonary trunk, which is the lungs, where it undergoes oxygenation, and return back to the left atrium via the pulmonary veins to increase the pressure in the left, and what we have discussed. Due to the pulmonary vascular resistance lower than the systemic vascular resistance, flow reverses in ductus arteriosus also. So this is ductus arteriosus, which we have talked about. So because the pressure in this vascular structure, the resistance decreases as compared to the vascular resistance. The reverse in the ductus arteriosus takes place and passing from aorta to the pulmonary trunk. Ultimately, another change which takes place just after birth is that the ductus arteriosus also closes by the contraction of the muscular wall, and because of that contraction, this pathway is closed now, so there is no blood passing through or between aorta and pulmonary trunk. And ultimately, this functional closure which takes place just after birth, with the passage of time, changes into a fibrous tissue structure which is known as ligamentum arteriosus. So complete anatomical augmentation occurs till 3 months. Some books say that between 1 to 3 months, complete augmentation of this ductus arteriosus occurs, and ultimately it forms the ligamentum arteriosum. So here we can see a normal patent ductus arteriosus. Here we see some abnormality with 6-month-old infant. So that is an abnormal condition, and finally it becomes obliterated. And also in full term units, oxygen controls the closure of ductus arteriosus. So the factor which is responsible for closure of the ductus arteriosus is that in full term units, oxygen controls the closure of ductus arteriosus, and it is mediated by a substance which is known as bradykinin. So bradykinin is a substance which is released from the lungs, and as it is released from the lungs, it acts on this ductus arteriosus to be closed, and also the prostaglandins, which acts on the smooth muscle of the ductus arteriosus. So because of the prostaglandins and bradykinin, the muscular wall of the ductus arteriosus constricts, and ultimately it completely closes. And functional closure, as we have discussed, of ductal arteriosus occurs afterwards between 10 to 15 hours. It closes functionally, but anatomical closure occurs till the third month of third month afterward. This is fetal circulation. Again, we will see from placenta. Umbilical vein carries the blood. So just at the umbilical vein area, we have a sphincter in the ductus venosus, which is responsible for the construction and relaxation of the tubular structure. Most of the blood passes through ductus venosus directly to the inferior vena cava. Some of the blood passes to the liver, sinusoids, from sinusoids to the hepatic veins, and from hepatic veins to the inferior vena cava. From here, the blood with a good pressure enters into right atrium. From right atrium, most of the blood enters through foramen vein into left atrium, and some of the blood through the crista dividens, which is the lower edge of septum secundum, remain in the right atrium. So that's some of the blood mixes with the blood which is coming from superior vena cava, and that mixed blood enter into right ventricle. From right ventricle, the blood enters into the pulmonary trunk, and from pulmonary trunk, most of the blood, because of the pressure through ductus arteriosus, enters into the aorta and then passes to the body of the baby. And most of the blood which enters into the left atrium, which is oxygenated, receives 10% deoxygenated blood from the lung tissue and mixes and then enters into the left ventricle. So this highly oxygenated blood enters into the ascending aorta. From here it gives branches to the heart. So heart receives well oxygenated blood from here, and also the head and neck and upper limb receives, also the brain receives well oxygenated blood from the ascending and arching aorta, and then 10% of the blood from here enters into the descending aorta and reaches to the body tissues, and from body tissues ultimately through umbilical arteries blood re-enter into the placenta, which carries almost 58% of oxygen. So that is the fetal circulation. In adult circulation, as we have seen, because of the obliteration of the umbilical cord, now there is no connection or no blood coming from the placenta. So ultimately this umbilical artery become obliterated and become ligamentum teres of the liver, and ductus venosus become the ligamentum venosus, and all the blood is entering into the liver or passing through the liver, and from here it enters inferior vena cava. So because of this pathway closure, the pressure decreases, and as the pressure decreases in the right atrium and increased pressure in the left ventricle, because pulmonary circulation started, lungs are inflating now, so the pressure of the decreased pressure, the most of the blood is passing to right ventricle. From right ventricle it enters to the pulmonary trunk, and as the pulmonary ligamentum arteriolum is also closing, as we have discussed, by the action of prostaglandins and bradykinin. So, and the decreased vascular resistance of this, the blood is entering into the lungs completely. Adult circulation started, and from here the blood is coming back to the right left atrium. So because of the pressure increase in the left atrium, the septum primum and septum secundum are pressed together, and foramen ovale is closed now. So the blood enters into left ventricle, and from left ventricle through ascending aorta it enters into the baby body. So this is the human adult circulation. So that is the difference between fetal and circulation after birth. So we can say the changes which are taking place at the level of the liver, that ductus venosus closes, umbilical vein closes, pressure in the inferior cava decreases in adult circulation. Most of the blood which is entering into the left atrium now remain in the right atrium because of the decreased pressure, and this left atrial pressure compresses this opening which is known as foramen ovale, so foramen ovale closed, and also along with that the ligamentum arteriosum, which is ductus arteriosum, initially passing blood. Because of the predation prostaglandins, it wall constricts and obliterated, and systemic pressure increased in the adult circulation as compared to the pulmonary. All factors are responsible for closure of the ligamentum as this ductus arteriosus and become ligamentum arteriosum, and adult circulation starts. Because the fetus is in a fluid-filled environment, amniotic sac at the time of before the birth, so it is unable to use its lungs to obtain oxygen from the environment. So lungs are collapsed and not mature. So just after the birth, with the first cry of the baby, they expand and they start their expiration and expiration. So finally, we just repeat the derivatives of the fetal vessels and the structures. So the left umbilical vein in the fetal life become the round ligament of the liver or ligamentum teres of the liver. So in the adult human life, the umbilical vein become round ligament of the liver or ligamentum teres. The ductus venosus, which is in the fetal life, become ligamentum venosum. In the adult life, the umbilical arteries, which are closed at the time of cord clamp, their distal part become medium umbilical ligaments, and their proximal part remain as it is, functional as superior vesical arteries for supplying the urinary bladder. And as we have discussed that because the pressure changes, the foramen ovale closes, and also the fossa ovalis become the fossa ovalis. So foramen ovale become fossa ovalis. So in fetal life it is foramen ovale, and in adult life it is fossa ovalis. And ductus arteriosus also become ligamentum arteriosus. So these changes are taking place. So the first change which is happening is occlusion of the umbilical vein. As the umbilical vein occluded, decrease flow into the ductus venosus, and it also closes, and there is an increased flow into the inferior vena cava, becoming decreased, and ultimately the same way immediately ductus arteriosus is also constricted and closes, so the blood flow changes occurs, and finally the umbilical arteries blood is also occluded because of the closure of the umbilical cord. These are the derivatives for structures which are in the fetal life. In adult life they become, most of them become ligaments or converted into ligaments because of the constriction and proliferation of the tissue. There are two points we are going to discuss, or condition we are to discuss. One is known as patent ductus arteriosus, occurs 2 to 3 times more in females, and patent ductus arteriosus means that ductus arteriosus not closes and remain open. That is known as patent ductus arteriosus. Mostly it is associated with mother rubella infection during early pregnancy. If mother is infected by rubella in early pregnancy, it can remain open, and due to lack of oxygen or hypoxia and immaturity, preterm neonates and those born at high altitude may have patent ductus arteriosus. So if there is a lack of oxygen or preterm babies have immaturity, those babies who are born in high altitude, they can develop patent ductus arteriosus. Our embryological basis of patent ductus arteriosus is failure of ductus arteriosus to involute after birth and form the ligamentum arteriosus. If this ductus arteriosus not closes after birth and not changes into ligamentum arteriosum, so it remains patent as patent ductus arteriosus, which has to be treated by surgery. The second is patent foramen ovale. Again, it is a heteroseptal defect. A very small isolated patent foramen is of no hemodynamic significance. So generally we have talked that patent foramen ovale closes after birth, but complete closure may occur till first year of life. A very small foramen ovale can be there, but it is not have any hemodynamic significance because it is very small. So there is no problem with the circulation. Along with the pulmonary atresia, in some of the cases when the pulmonary artery is not formed properly, blood is shunted through the foramen ovale into the left atrium, produces cyanosis. So if in the baby with pulmonary atresia that the pulmonary vessels are not properly formed, the blood is directly going to the from foramen ovale to the left atrium and it causes cyanosis. So it is one of the cyanotic heart disease. A probe pattern ovale. Probe means we put a small probe into the foramen ovale. So a probe pattern foramen ovale size is present up to 25% of the people. And a probe pattern foramen ovale not causes any problem until there is a proper shunting of the blood take place between the right and left atria. A probe pattern foramen ovale results from incomplete adhesions between the flap-like valve of the foramen ovale and the septum secundum after birth. So this is the embryological reason of pattern foramen ovale, that after the adhesion of the foramen ovale, if it is not completely adherent and the septums are not completely stick together, there is a space and that space is known as probe pattern foramen ovale. So that is the embryological region. So that is about the patent foramen ovale, which is a part of atrial septal defect. So this is all about the changes taking place after birth and the fetal circulation. If you have any question related to it, you can ask on my email. Thank you very much.